Eccentric, often brilliant gnomes are held as one of the most peculiar races of the world.
One of the biggest mysteries in One Piece has always been Blackbeard, also known as Marshall D. Teach, and his enigmatic background. With the recent developments in Elbaf and in the God Valley flashback, we are finally beginning to unravel some of this mystery. But even still, there are so many questions to be asked. Where did Blackbeard end up after these events? Why was his childhood full of such despair? We might not have the answers in full yet, but with the clues we have been recently given, we may just be able to start piecing together the truth. Along the way, uncovering the secrets of Shadeport, Lulusia, and even the final ancient weapon, Uranus. Hello, Gnome here, back with another One Piece theory. This time we will be discussing Lulusia, its importance, and a possible tie to Uranus. So strap in and let's get started. We learned from a Vivric card that Blackbeard is from Shadeport. Not much else has been shown to us about this island, which is strange considering it ties to Teach. An interesting parallel is that our protagonist, Monkey D. Luffy, is from Dawn Island, directly correlating with Teach being from Shadeport. This is another way Oda could be showing us the opposition between Luffy and Blackbeard, much like the cherry pie scene and even their own devil fruits. We have known for a while that Luffy and Blackbeard are supposed to be opposites, and even the names of the places they were born seem to indicate this, which I find very amusing. So let's talk about what happened in chapter 1162. Era said that she wanted to take Blackbeard back to Lulusia in their escape from God Valley, even remarking that she would unalive herself and baby Blackbeard if they were caught. This comment gives some credence to the idea that this is where Teach was born, and Rock sent them to God Valley to seek out the protection of the Davy clan. Due to his status in the world as a dangerous individual, it could be that he was in fear of his family's safety and wanted to seek the protection of the Davy clan, or that he was just taking preemptive measures. With these factors in mind, let's kick this off by saying that I believe that Emu is in control of Uranus, which is what I believe the Sky Laser is. The one that rains death from above and more than likely created a gigantic hole in Enies Lobby and then disappeared from the world afterwards. The Sky Laser, after destroying everything in its path, creates a hole in the ground that seems to never-endingly pull water into it, like a massive waterfall. The theory I have seen over the years is that the hole is essentially taking in all this water and dispersing it into other areas, hence never filling up. In turn, this creates a massive amount of pressure that will then make a gigantic dispersion of water, which we know of as the Knockup stream. I'll talk more about this a little later, but for now, let's look at the main part of the theory. Emu states that they were targeting Lulusia because of the proximity. Speculation leads us to believe that Lulusia is close to Marijois. However, I doubt this is the case, because I believe that Emu was referring to the distance between Lulusia and the weapon, rather than Lulusia's proximity to Marijois. Mapping the area can be tricky, since no real One Piece map has been fully provided. However, we do have some clues and even small images that help us locate these islands and marine bases. As seen in chapter 1086, Lulusia and Kamabaka Queendom are quite close to each other, even being shown on a map directly showing their proximity to each other. Then we have Ace's cover story, which provided another glimpse at how close the G2 marine base also could be to Lulusia. In Ace's cover story, we see that in pursuit of Blackbeard, Ace ends up being saved by Moda the Milkmaid, who actually happens to be a resident of Lulusia. In this process, we learn that Lulusia is actually going to be supplying milk to the G2 marine base, as we can see on this map that Moda provided to Ace. Once again, this small map shows us that it can't be too far between G2 and Lulusia. These islands all also happen to be on the Paradise side of the Grand Line, which is also where Enies Lobby happens to be. Enies Lobby being where the first massive Sky Laser hole is, leads me to guess that this would be where Uranus is being kept, after possibly using up its power source, making the hole in Enies Lobby. I think that it was kept here because it did not have the capability to be moved without the power source, as it was used up firing it the first time, and would not be moved again until the Mother Flame was created. Another idea is it could have potentially been taken by Nefeltari Lily and hidden somewhere. So I think that Lulusia is actually much closer to Enies Lobby than we first believed, And the reason that Emu targeted Lulusia was not because of its proximity to Marishwa, but how close it was to Enislabi, where I believe the weapon was kept. Now with the map talk out of the way, it's time for the really fun part. There are two ways to think about this. The first one being that when Sabo remarked that a shadow was in the sky above Lulusia, that it was sort of a foreshadowing for Lulusia being called Shadeport. However, I have another idea. My theory is that Lulusia is nicknamed Shadeport because Uranus is either A, sitting over the top of one of the ports on Lulusia, hence it being named Shadeport, or B, it is parked above Enislabi. In both cases, possibly disguised as a cloud, and I think that Uranus is blocking out the sun, maybe even at dawn when the sun rises, or even at noon when the sun is the brightest, hence giving Lulusia the nickname Shadeport. Both of these options work, since after the hole in Enislabi was created, it could have either died on the spot, or had a little left in the tank and made its way to Lulusia. Uranus would essentially be acting as a colossal umbrella, and I think Emu chose Lulusia because of the closeness to Enislabi, meaning it would also be close to Lulusia. Just think about that. All this time, Uranus could have been sitting right above somewhere we visited so long ago in the story. Another interesting parallel I would like to discuss is when Blackbeard chased down Luffy on Jaya. Right as the Knockup stream was about to happen, Teach almost caught up to the ship. But right before he got there, the raft was destroyed by the Knockup stream. All of his crew survived, but their ship/raft was destroyed. As we discussed earlier, if the massive hole caused by the sky laser is what makes the Knockup streams happen, we are seeing some massive foreshadowing here. Blackbeard would, in essence, have his raft destroyed by the after effects of the same weapon that caused the hole in the first place. And then 2 years later, it would go on to blow up his hometown of Lulusia. Just look at the Knockup stream. It's very similar in shape to the lasers from the supposed Uranus that we see on Lulusia, and even seems to turn into a laser of sorts as the water jolts into the sky. This would also mean that Blackbeard has a pre-time skip and post-time skip interaction with Uranus, even if we didn't realize it at the time. Now let's talk about Lulusia and its history a bit, as it has actually been mentioned in the story several times now. In the Ace cover story, Dr. Blackbeard was kicked by Ace here, mistaking him for the real Blackbeard. We don't know if he made it off Lulusia or not, but the fact that this is where Eris wants to take Blackbeard after leaving God Valley, and Ace mistaking him for the real deal since they look so similar is very interesting. If something does happen to Eris on God Valley, perhaps Dr. Blackbeard is the one who took Teach in, essentially taking on the name Blackbeard, the same as the Doctor. The Revolutionary Army also helped Lulusia when the Peachbeard pirates attacked after King Seki left them defenseless. And while we're on the topic, let's talk about King Seki. He's the king of Lulusia until his demise. King Seki literally looks like a vampire. In a lot of media, vampires usually have a core motivation of blocking out the sun. And if it's the case that the sun is being blocked out by Uranus, I think that is such a cool hint by Oda. As we have all been wondering for many years now why Lulusia has a king that is literally a vampire. Given that God Valley is Rock's hometown and where the Davy clan resides, I wonder if Lulusia could be where the Teach's family name, Marshall, could reside. Another thing we gotta talk about is who's in Marishwa. If it turns out to be the case that Emu destroyed Blackbeard's home island, we could have a valid reason for Blackbeard attacking Marishwa at this moment. As we know, Blackbeard is normally very opportunistic, essentially only attacking someone when every card is in his favor. I think that if Emu destroyed Lulusia, his home island, perhaps where he was raised before joining Whitebeard, it could make Blackbeard do something out of character, such as attacking Marishwa, causing the fire that Emu speaks of while talking to the Gods Knights. This line from Rock's "I'll be back" could add on to this, meaning that in the flashback we saw Rox invading Marishwa, while in the present Blackbeard was doing the same thing. Now I would like to end this video with a bit of speculation that could also fit. If you have ever seen the movie Laputa, Joy Girl made a great theory on it a long time ago. Please check it out. You would know about the floating castle in the sky that is essentially a massive super weapon and a city all in one. Even crazier, inside this floating city are cube-shaped massive rocks with writing on them. Poneglyphs, am I right? This brings up another theory I have about Uranus being powered by the poneglyphs. and Lily, maybe with the powers of the pawpaw fruit, shot them away from Uranus and then fled from Emu. This could be the blunder that Emu was talking about before finding out that Lily was actually a D member. I could probably make a whole video on this topic, so let me know in the comments if you want to see that. So a cool scenario would be that Uranus, floating in the sky above Lulusia and Enies Lobby, is actually where the ancient kingdom was, exactly like Laputa's floating castle being an ancient superweapon and a city all in one. The idea I have for this is that Lulusia is not Shadeport, but Uranus is actually the place called Shadeport, an island that gives shade. And Blackbeard was born here in the sky. Lulusia has been teased in front of our eyes several times throughout the story. Ace's cover story, Peachbeard attacking, and even the destruction that we witnessed by the death laser from Uranus. This makes me think that Lulusia is more important than it looks on the surface. Enies Lobby being the resting place of the ancient weapon Uranus and casting its shadow onto Lulusia, making it the shaded port that Blackbeard was raised on, would be a stroke of genius by Oda and could tie all the pieces together, meaning that Uranus has been in front of our eyes this entire time. If you enjoyed this episode of Gnome Improvement, please like and subscribe. And as always, shout out to Jiji and Birch. See you in the next one.